Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We have week 7. This is the last week of the regular season of the Collegiate Chess League Spring 2026 season. We actually have games starting. This is a huge matchup, a historical matchup between two of the strongest teams that the league has ever seen. This is between, of course, the top two teams in Division 1. We've got Mizzou versus SLU. This is one of the most historic matchups of the Collegiate Chess League's history. And I believe SLU has the edge historically. I can look up those numbers, but let's dive right in. Let's check out these games. We already have them underway. So round 1 is live right now as we speak. Here we've got Mihail Boyer versus Barat. I believe Barat is the board 2 from St. Louis. And Mihail, he's been the board 1. He's been over 3,100, maybe even over 3,200, perhaps, at some point. I may be exaggerating. But currently sitting at 3069. And Barat is at 3121. So these are the two highest rated teams in the entire league. And Mizzou is coming off of a huge win over the board at their hometown. Actually, they defended their turf at the President's Cup, which happened recently. Mizzou bringing home first place against their rivals, St. Louis, who I believe came in second place. We've got Benjamin Bach in the chat. Of course, the former captain and champion for the St. Louis University team. He's definitely played his fair share of matches against this Mizzou team. What's up, Physic? Good to see you. Hello, 4BRHX and Speechess. Always tuning in. Always appreciated. Good to see you. All right, knight to c4 from Mihail. Hitting that queen. Queen will have to find a new home. We could potentially see a queen trade offered. That could be a move. Trying to get this knight in, attacking this bishop, but this pawn could be hanging. If the knight moves, this pawn could be hanging if the knight hops in. But no, we see the queen coming back. This is boxing out this knight. So not going to get attacked anytime soon by this knight. And so white just continues with the development. Rook from A to E1. This is kind of boxing in this rook on the F file ever so slightly. But we could see this queen move out of the way. Perhaps the F pawn will clear. Let's take a look at some of the other boards. It's very important to know the lineups here. We've got Viktor Gajic. This is the board 3 from St. Louis at 3126, playing up against Luca. Luca, I think, had sort of a rough match the last one we saw. I believe, was that against SRM IST? I think they won in overtime, this Mizzou team. I believe these two teams are actually facing off for one of the top 2 playoff spots, which I know Benjamin Bach knows those playoff spots are very valuable, considering a top 2 spot gets you a bye in the first week. And these players love having some extra time to rest. Here, Viktor Gajic lifting the rook, putting a lot of pressure on this d-pawn. This d-pawn is very deep in the position, but that makes it hard to defend. It's only currently protected by this knight, which has a little bit of pin action here, but this rook move also clears the knight to come back and attack this pawn. But we've got some action here on the king side. G5, and the knight decides to go forwards and not backwards. And we see there's potential here for a kingside attack. This is looking very good for the SLU team against Luca. And Luca is their board 2 this week. All right, this was a mistake here. Knight into c2, and this hits the rook, but that also leaves the pawn hanging. Also offers a queen trade, so queen takes. And Victor says, I don't care if you take the rook, even with check, because I'm threatening checkmate. And this pawn on h6 is a menace. So this knight move, this could be the first blunder of the game. It's getting perhaps the first brilliancy of today, perhaps of many. So an exchange sacrifice just to threaten checkmate. We see the knight does take the rook with check, And this could be spelling the end of Luca's game 1. So starting off strong for Slew. We see pawn takes. And let's see, how do you defend? Okay, so there's a pawn push. Of course, there's a capture. And now don't take back. Maybe the king runs there, actually. This bishop is kind of a good defender. But it's got to be just crushing. Computer's already reading its mate in 9. So best of luck to our friend Luca here. Yeah, interesting thing to note. Okay, we do see a defense being put up, rook a7, bringing the rook in, but look at this. That's a fork. And this is pinned, this is hit. The rook's going to join in on the fun. So unless you find something a little bit better than taking a free rook, you're going to go ahead and do that, and Victor gets the first win of the match. That was a fast one. That was 36 moves. Only a few minutes here into round 1. Let's check out the other games we haven't looked at yet. This is Aryan Chopra with the black pieces. This is the board 1 for St. Louis. And they're playing against Amilal Munkdalai. This is the board 4 international master from Mongolia for Mizzou. And this last move, computer's giving a miss. Let's see what was missed. Apparently it liked h4, attacking this knight. Leaving the knight. I mean, knight on f5 looks pretty good, but okay. Pawn structure being solidified here. h4 is still in the back pocket. The knight goes back preemptively. We might want to reroute the knight back to f5. Okay, rook doubling for the queen. Bishop is here to defend. This is a long diagonal bishop here. So bishop pair for black. Contesting the open A file currently. Less than a minute for Amilal. And there's one last game we haven't looked at yet. It's looking like it's a fairly equal position. This is Nicolosi Kacharava on board 4 for St. Louis University, playing up against Isik Chan. This is the board 1 today for Mizzou, 29-44. We've got Robbie joining in as well. Mizzou board 1 missing because he's playing Reykjavik. Okay, so that's Aryan Tari, who has been playing pretty well this season. We have some very strong threats for white here, and another double X-Clan move. These slew players, they're getting their brilliance in today. Knight back. This is cutting off the queen here, and I thought was defending f7. But Nicolosi has other ideas. He sacrifices the knight, and instead of getting another brilliancy, he gets a question mark mistake. It's a knight sack for 2 pawns, F and E. He's hitting the rook. He's hitting this pawn. But what is his follow-up? Nicolosi, less than 30 seconds on the clock. If this pans out, that could be big, but computer doesn't believe it. The question is, does Isik believe it? Can Isik find the best response? What's he going to play here? Okay, so he saves the rook. And also now this e-pawn is looking pretty weak. Okay, queen steps back, defending the knight and threatening checkmate, but now it's Isik's turn to play the brilliant. He sacks back, exchange sacrifice, rook takes, and now we have rook takes c3 intermezzo, and that's a blunder. He just blundered his queen. Nicolosi has a queen. What a trick. Rook takes, and now black says, well, I got this pawn, I might as well push it. But the rook is in time to stop that. Rook takes, hits this, or queen takes. Oh my god, is this gonna be, how do you get this c-pawn? Computer loves white. These pawns are gonna have to play somehow. Because this rook is paralyzed, and the 2 rooks are gonna keep this queen at bay. This knight can try to play, but these pawns can be very strong, but Isak has no time, and he's already blundered his queen. So who knows if there's going to be more. But yeah, the eval bar is creeping back down after this last move, f4. So it's reading a draw. It's definitely looking very difficult for whites to make progress here. Now the knight's hopping in. Mihail Boyer won against Barat. We can see this was a winning king and pawn endgame. So that knight was trapped. All right, so Mihail answers back, and Amilal less than 10 seconds, but doing very well here with the white pieces. That's 2 extra minor pieces, but hold on. Black says, I've got a lot of pawns. And only 3 seconds for Amilal. 5 seconds here. We've got a knight check. Rook's attacking the pawn. Pawn's defending the pawn. Look at this pawn. It's 1 square away. And they're all connected here. This is looking very dangerous, actually, even with the 2 extra minor pieces. Wow, rook hanging itself for the greater good of the pawns. And now the rook defends the promotion. So white has to give up a rook. And we see an exchange sack, and now this pawn is unstoppable. Nicolosi won against Isak. The points are flying in here. So Mihail won, Nicolosi won, and now here we see Aryan Chopra getting the job done. So this is a 3-1 round for St. Louis University, a big round to start. And yeah, this queen blunder already, absolute madness and chaos. This I thought was looking drawish or equal. Maybe drawish is not the right word, but here we have the queen infiltrating and the pawns working in unison, and the king now stepping on up. And we see progress slowly but surely being made. We have some checks luring out this king, and now the rook can finally enter without fear of promotion. He's coming in with check, and yeah, that's going to do it. Queen takes knight next. So big sacrifice from Nicolosi, and it pays off, sacking his knight for 2 pawns and gets a nice trick against Isak. So Isak's got to warm up. He's got to wake up. Normally wouldn't hang the queen like that in 1 move, but clearly in some time pressure. So here we go. Round number 2 now. This is a big one. Aryan Chopra versus Mihail Boyer. And we've already got quite a sizable pawn reach here on the queen side for white. So Aryan Chopra developing the bishop, already castled and fianchettoed. Black also castled, and kind of a rough fianchetto here. A lot of pawns pushed up on that king side. So the pawns are making a wave for both players. There's kind of this symmetrical sort of pattern that they've created. It's kind of beautiful. But okay, Aryan Chopra is making the first pawn contact here. Perhaps going to lock things down or open things up. The choice right now is up to white. So deciding to lock things down here, and the bishop tucks back to the corner, and we immediately have a bishop trade offered, which the computer is giving a question mark to. But yeah, this was a connect 5 there for white. So this game's looking very locked. Black could try to open up the f-file, but yeah, right now not a single pawn has been traded on this board, and yeah, it's looking black. I mean, this would basically be a draw offer, right? I mean, there's some potential breaks in the position, but yeah, like if this pawn pushes, this is completely locked. So, all right, we have some more trades offered. I don't think black will take, but maybe they do. Maybe they will. Let's take a look at some of the other games here. We've got Isak versus Victor now. So Victor had a big win in that first round. Now playing against Isak. Isak, he's got to bounce back after that first round. That was a rough game to lose to Nicolosi. And Nicolosi is playing against Luca. And Luca lost in that first round too. So yeah, 3-1. It's a big lead for Slew. It's 2-point advantage, but it's still very early on in the match. We saw Mizzou actually have a 3-1 lead against SRM before SRM eventually brought it back and forced overtime. So it's definitely very doable. It's well within reach. This match is very far from over. Mizzou just needs to answer back. So the question is, can Mizzou do it? Especially without their top board, Aryan Tari, who is playing over the board in Reykjavik currently. So there's a lot of pride on the line between these two teams. Slew has had the edge historically, thanks to some strong players and leaders like Bach and Robbie currently in the chat. Bach and Robbie, they could be a strong commentary duo. I don't know if they've ever done it before. If they have, I've missed it. I think the world is missing out. We need some more Bach and Robbie content. Just like the good old days, competing in the Collegiate Chess League. And I'm sure many Pan Ams and President's Cups. Give a little wink. Who would I like to win? As a completely unbiased commentator? Well, I live in St. Louis, but I have visited Mizzou. But I visited SLU more times, and some people may know this, others may not, but my dad actually went to SLU. So that's a fun fact perhaps about me. All right, Mihail and Aryan did draw. This was definitely one of the most draw pawn structures. We did see a knight capture, but then a second knight capture fixing the pawn. So not a singular pawn was traded in that game. Mihail and Aryan said, hey, let's just shake hands. And they did. So 1.5 now for Aryan. 1.5 now for Mihail. Mihail is the only player in that first round for Mizzou to get a win. Now he gets stopped by Aryan with a draw. Here we've got Isak and Victor. So no castling yet from either side. Some doubled pawns here for white, but a semi-open H-file to work with. The problem with castling long is that you're going to get your rooks forked, so that's not a great feeling. And black now is ready to castle. Potentially. Probably. Maybe. Depending. We'll see. I mean, yeah, semi-open H-file. You've got a pawn on A4 for white. Isak, time is ticking. About a minute less than Victor now. And Victor just developed that bishop. Bishop pair for black. This knight defending the other knight. This pawn is being baited, but not taken. And we see rook A3. So certainly no queenside castling for Isak. Rook B3 is a potential move, trying to question the queen's position. And still baiting the B pawn. Now, if queen takes, there's still rook B3. Queen check, there's rook B1. So, yeah. What does Victor do? Do you castle queenside and welcome rook B3? I think the queen wants a new home anyways. I'm not sure if you would ever play B5. Probably not anytime soon, but okay. Queen questioning the bishop. Queen defending the bishop. And also helping support some control over B5 as well. So now, after rook B3, there is queen A5. Queen is feeling a little short on squares. The thing is, after queen B5, we're actually threatening to take this pawn, perhaps, or perhaps not. I'm not sure, because when the rook goes to the b file, you're losing defense over a4. Okay, we had a huge eval swing here. What's going on in this game? We've got Barat, board 2 from Slew versus Amilal, the board 4. And we've got a bishop pair for white. Bishop in, knight and pawn gets hit. Rook comes here, threatening this. That's a massive fork and skewer. So the rook comes here trying to defend. However, bishop check here, and that's going to hurt because king steps back. We've got another bishop check. The bishop pair is working. Rook takes with check, and now the other rook is going to fall. Black does have knight takes, perhaps with a fork. Okay, but there's also... Okay, rook f1, king here, bishop check. Not even taking the rook, but okay, now the rook's going to come in with the skewer. So then you take or you force the king up first. This is the only legal move. Rook comes in with check. And then you're going to just take the rook. And that way you're not even getting forked anymore. So that's really nice maneuver here from Barat. So yeah, big blunder. Rook f8. What was needed here instead? Rook d to f8 apparently is much better. But yeah, this rook and now it's just lights out. So check. King is really cut off everywhere. So has to go to e7. Another bishop check. King is forced to the back rank. And yeah, that's lights out. So Mizzou, they're blundering here against these Slew players. Slew is they're looking good. They're looking alert, and they're playing their tactics. So Barat gets their first win. We have 2 games left here in round 2. Now, all this, maybe at the end of the day, not as important as the playoffs, which are starting next weekend. So, in the playoffs, that's going to determine who wins the prize money and who's going to go home with all the glory. Right now, we're still in the regular season, but they're fighting for pride, for glory, and for those playoff spots, which are very important because your seeding determines who you will play against. And there's definitely some teams out there that you don't want to get matched up in the first round with because they could send you home. And as we know, these players also play a lot over the board, like Aryan Tari, for example, who could use some extra time off. So the bye week is really important for these teams. Okay, I like white. I mean, this is just a monster bishop here. Black does have a bishop pair. And okay, wow. I don't know if I would have taken this. I feel like you're going to get pinned. But what? What's going on? Do we have like bishop b6? That's kind of a sick move. Yeah, there it is. So Lucas says, I'll go ahead and take that pawn, and I'll take the brilliancy. Go ahead, trade my queen. So black gets the a pawn, but now look at this guy. Ooh, he's running. And bishop takes, pawn takes. If bishop takes, we take e4. Or actually, hold up. There's rook b1. And say hello to my rook. And say hello to your back rank. Oh my goodness. That b pawn was running. Black thought he could take it. This is Nicolosi. 4 seconds for Nicolosi. 3, 2, 1. How do you stop it? Bishop back, but now rook b8. Pinning and winning. If king here, that's a forced mate. Give 1 check. Pawn push to create space, but you're losing your bishop. So now, white's just got an extra bishop here. And rook check is going to be big. Pawns are pushing, but this is going to be a win for Luca. Nice tactical shot there with that passed b pawn. And Nicolosi, he did not have enough space for his king. And now these pawns will drop like flies. And the D pawn is running. The F pawn also protected. This king is very short on squares. We see one pawn traded. But now bishop here or here. And say hello. It's a baby girl. Luca resigns. Okay, and we have one last game here. Sorry, not Luca resigns. Luca wins. Luca gets on the board. So Mizzou trying to answer back, but this is looking very good for Viktor Gajic, who is taking it to e6 right now. So bishop pair versus a knight. And I mean, the white king has no squares. He's literally cut off. And the bishop is coming in. Knight here. There's a trade here, and you're going to have some windmill action. That's going to win the rook right then and there. So, yeah. GG. Viktor Gajic improving to a perfect 2 for 2. And that's going to actually further Slew's lead up now to 3 points. But technically that was a better round for Mizzou compared to their first round. So instead of going down 2 points, they only went down 1 point, but the score is cumulative. So Mizzou's down by 3. They really need to turn around. They improved slightly, but they're still worse. Though they need to improve greatly to have any chance. So we're going into the second half. Mizzou might be a second half team. Although actually, based off what I've seen, they've kind of been choking in the latter half. But maybe they're reversing the script this week. Maybe they're luring Slew into a false sense of security. Where were you when Ariantari frame-mugged a Wonder Liang? That's a great question, Tatar Evergreens. I honestly missed it. I don't know. When was that? Anyways. Yeah, shout out to a Wonder playing for the Webster team, not competing in the CCL. But you know, glad that they're focusing on OTB. There's more I could say. There really is. But a Wonder, you know, he beat Hikaru, and on top of that, he played in the American Cup, which was cool. I got to see him there. I also saw Robbie there. So shout out to Robbie. Although Robbie didn't compete, to my knowledge. But I did see him there. I also saw Eric Rosen and Irene. Very cool. I also saw Talia, who was a huge part of the women's championship win that Slew had. So shout out to Slew's women's team getting a national championship. Same as Mizzou. So these teams, they're championship caliber. They know what it takes to win. They have the history. And they also are competing in CCL every season, which is great. A Wonder competed in the CCL, but back in his undergrad days at U Chicago. In fact, a Wonder Liang, he is part of the only team to win a CCL championship that wasn't a scholarship team. So shout out to U Chicago, a Wonder, and Praveen Balakrishnan, obviously a huge part of that championship win back in season 3 of the CCL. So the CCL debuted 2020. That inaugural season was down to Mizzou and Slew, with Slew winning, and then Mizzou winning the second season. And then it was U Chicago and a Wonder Liang. So we'd love to have a Wonder back, and we'd love to have Webster back. Webster played in the CCL team format only once, and they lost in the finals to none other than St. Louis University. Here we have the bishop pair working in tandem once again with an open king here. And black is hesitating to trade bishops because that's going to help white's pawn structure. But also, this pawn was now hanging because this pawn is... okay, I guess the knights are defending both of them. So the question becomes, can we take this knight? Honestly, I don't know. I guess you don't want to get everything lined up on the e-file. Perhaps, maybe not. I don't know. There's some time being spent here by Barat, but e6 is looking good. Currently up a pawn. Black decides not to take back, and that eval bars now disliking this decision from Barat. But Barat won his previous round, lost in the first round to Mihail. I didn't say hi to you, Tatar Evergreens. I thought I did. You cried tears of joy, Mississippi flooded, and drowned wash you, as God intended. I don't know that's what God intended. Okay, knight to d4, a fancy maneuver here, attacking the bishop, forcing the bishop trade, taking advantage of this pin currently, so this pawn is unable to capture. This pawn is technically hanging, but maybe we'll see something. I don't know. But okay, pawn taking this way, opening up that a file. So e6 working his magic here against Barat. But e6 has lost both games so far, and so has Amilal as well. But Amilal is actually looking good against Victor, who's a perfect 2-for-2 for Slew. So this was not Victor's game so far. So let's see what happened. We have... okay, bishop pair for black. Big blunder. That's a skewer. The queen comes here with the threat of a skewer and gets it. So that is just an exchange for black. So Victor Gajic just blundering in exchange. And look at this. The knight and the bishop just completely cutting this. I mean, it's perfect. Wow. So just like that, Amilal blunders back in exchange. That is ridiculous. Look at this bishop just cutting in like a knife, taking up the squares from the rook. Knight here, and look at this blunder. The rook needs to just move somewhere else. This, say goodbye to that exchange that you got. So both sides blundering in exchange, which is, I'd like to think it's rare, but it happened twice in the same game. So now we've got a bishop versus a knight. It's back to dead even. Slightly better for black. I like the black pawns in the center. I like the bishop over the knight. So there's still a game to be had. Maybe Amilal was like, listen, I don't want your handouts. Take the exchange back. But he's making himself work a little bit harder for it. Now we have e4. Computer says it's a miss, but black says, I want to open up for my bishop. So say hello to my queen. Otherwise, you're going to have to give me something in return. So probably we're going to see just a good old-fashioned g3 pawn push. Just classic. And now black takes back with a pawn. And this rook opens up ever so slightly. We could see the rook coming in. We do. Now we could see black defending the pawn. We could also see a check, but I'm not entirely so sure. I feel like just defending the pawn, it looks very passive. I won't lie about that. The rook is seemingly very well placed here on the f-file, but okay, we see a check. We could see a block. Yeah, computer gives us a miss, or a mistake, rather. Maybe the pawn defends the queen, but then you're gonna lose your e-pawn is the problem. So, yeah, I liked the good old-fashioned rook e8. very passive. But it defends a pawn, you know? A pawn is a pawn. A pawn is a pawn is a pawn, as they say. And now I'm expecting white to just block with the queen. I don't know. Victor, using a bit of time, has about half the time that Amilal has. Amilal really needs to win this. They're 0 for 2. They were up in exchange. They're down by 3 with only 2 rounds left. It's do or die. And E6 turned it up a notch here. What's going on in this game? So we saw E6 won a pawn here. Trade of rooks, and now rook here saying hello to this knight. And in fact, what's crazy is with this pawn push, and with this pawn here, and with this pawn here, the knight has 0 retreating squares. The knight only knows one direction, and that is forwards. And no matter where the knight goes, there's going to be some trouble. So let's see. Knight goes to c3. Here's a check. King steps up. Knight comes back, asking the knight. The bishop comes back, asking the knight another question of where it would like to go. And the knight decides to go to a2. And so now there's b4. But there's also c3 is an interesting decision. Okay, so the rook is putting some pressure on this knight. And the knight cannot take this pawn because it's defended by 2 pieces. And the rook also can come in with a check here. We can give a check. So my question is, can we give this check and trade off rooks? Now, the king would basically go here. I think, so check, check. If takes, pawn takes, we're sacking the knight just to push this pawn. How do we feel about that? We're queening with check. Doesn't that feel pretty good? And Isak had to get his clock down to 16 seconds. I think rook check is winning. But I also could be very wrong. I guess there's like this knight move here, which is kind of annoying, huh? So we can give another check. Oh, wow, he went for my idea. That's how you know things are going bad. Yeah, knight d7 is what I ended up seeing at the end. But pawn push, and this knight's here in time, so... Yeah, the thing is, black couldn't take the knight because of pawn push, but the thing is, black didn't take the knight because they played knight d7. And now this pawn's going to get caught. This knight is technically trapped, but for the time being, so is your bishop. So black's going to have to execute order save the trapped knight. But this king is here in time, so yeah, this is quite interesting. Pressure on c4, but the king says, I don't care. I think maybe we take first and then come back. Because now this knight's here, which is kind of annoying, but I guess it doesn't matter. So knight goes here saying, go ahead, take my knight. I'm going to take your pawn. Pawn says, you're going to have to work a little bit harder for that. Knight takes here. Now both of these pawns are hanging. This knight comes back with check and now defends that. But now this is attacked. Now that's attacked. So takes there. This knight's kind of short on squares, but this pawn's going to drop. Are we going to see a knight and bishop checkmate? Do you guys think that's possible? Oh. Hold on. Bishop's going to come back to defend the pawn, but then the knight's going to attack it. Oh, but then we have this. Possibly. Check, but now, okay, this guy's running. But hold on, check. Oh, that was not good. Yeah, I think the problem is they're playing the moves that I'm suggesting. Oh, now this is definitely not good because we just lose our pawn. Well, okay, we can save our pawn now, but then this guy's going to promote. So it's just a draw. There was a win in there somewhere. We couldn't find it, unfortunately. Okay, we have some results. So Mihail and Nicolosi drew, which I think is a good result for Nicolosi. But also, any draw is going to be good for Slew now because of their huge lead. Aryan Chopra gets a big win against Luka. So, okay, and Barat, wait, what? Guys, I looked away for the score. How did Black win this game? You're kidding me, right? Oh my word. Oh my goodness. So it was King F3. King F3 cost them the game. I cannot believe Barat just won that. Okay. And then Victor beat Amilal. I think that's the match, guys. Victor is now perfect. Yeah, this was a bad game from Amilal. Because he won an exchange and then oh my goodness. White just bringing in the pieces. And now up an extra pawn. And look at that pawn go. Oh my word. Okay, so that is so Victor's a perfect 3 out of 3. That was almost a sweep from the Mizzou team. And Barat won. So it's 9-3. Mizzou can't do anything at this point but play out that last match. And yeah, these points are important for tie breaks, but I think Slew should clinch a top 2 spot in the regular season, which should give them a bye. Of course, we still have to verify all of the rest of the standings from the rest of the division before playoff seeds are finalized. But a very demanding win here, and we see some quick draws here. A lot of these players will be playing later today in the U.S. Blitz Championship for colleges. So Mihail and Victor, just a quick draw. So yeah, Victor Gajic, undefeated, 3.5 out of 4. Huge part of this Slew team, and looking really good. So it's kind of fitting that they're playing Blitz in the Collegiate Chess League, and they'll be playing Blitz for the U.S. College Championship, which is happening in a few hours. So that's going to be at 5 p.m. Eastern. So this will be streamed on the CCL channel by FIDE Master Uni Kim, who went to Yale and played in the CCL, actually. I'm wondering if F4 is any good. Well, Black just takes back, which I think is pretty standard. But yeah, I was thinking about pushing this pawn. And then taking here. But then I guess we have more than enough. Okay. So not good. Okay, so rook here, instantly questioned by the bishop. We can block this if we want. This is Amilal, who's had a rough day today. But so too has Isak, actually. Isak is pointless. That sounded worse than how I meant it. He has no points in this match. But the Slew team, they're on fire today. So really, really strong performance. But that being said, Mizzou's not out. They will make it to the playoffs. And hopefully they'll have Aryan Tari back in the lineup, because we want best on best. We want to make sure all the best players are competing. SLU, they didn't play their captain, Steve. Steve has been playing a lot this season, but I'm sure Steve was still very much a part of this win today. I'm sure it helps with the what am I trying to say? The prep. He definitely helps with the lineups. I ask him every week. Amilal scored about as much as Tari would have. Them's fighting words. All right, so there was something that went wrong here, and that is queen e2, because knight f4 hits with tempo, queen back to f1, but now there's a semi-open g file to be worked with, and there's a lot of heavy pieces here for black. So Nicolozi's starting off strong here. Queen to h5, immediately threatening knight takes h3. And also, I mean, there's going to be a rook on the file. I mean, this is going to be light work for Nicolozi. Okay, bishop back, defending the knight. But what are you doing about rook g8? That's kind of a tough question. So I like that Mihail and Victor just agreed to a draw. I mean, I don't know if I should say that I like that, but what I really like, what I wanted to say is that I like that the other players are duking it out. We've still got some matches going on here. So both sides queenside castling between Luca and Barat. And yeah, Luca only 1 point today out of 3 games so far. Only Luca and Mihail have gotten points for the Mizzou team. So yeah, not their best showing, unfortunately. But they understand the format. They know what they need to win. They know that this is a regular season game. They know that they're making the playoffs. And they also know that they just won the US College Championship at the President's Cup. So this Mizzou team is not to be taken lightly. They know what it takes to win. And they know that they're going to need a much better effort next week because the playoffs are starting fast. So we will be back the same time next weekend, unless you're in Europe, in which case there's daylight savings, which is happening tomorrow. So any Europeans in the chat, make sure to adjust your clocks because it's going to be a slightly different time next week for you guys. It's going to be the same time for the rest of us, though, around the world. Pretty good showing, actually, for Mizzou standards. Wow. So you must really not like Mizzou. Okay, bishop takes knight and pawn takes back. I'm not sure why not bishop takes. Bishop takes, maybe you get hit by a pawn. I don't know. But this pawn structure doesn't look very pleasant. But Luca is the grandmaster and not me. And yeah, Isak against Aryan Chopra. So both Isak and Amilal trying to get on the board. This is the final round to do it, but Amilal is getting cooked here. So let's see, ladies and gentlemen. Let's play a game of can you find the tactic? So can you do it? Can you find the tactic here? Your queen is hit. So what shall be the move? Also, your bishop's hit too, by the way. So very, very interesting. All right, here we go. Queen takes h3. And we are threatening a very nasty rook takes g2. The best move here is sadly g4. So white finds it, trying to trade queens. It's only a matter of time before Nicolosi crashes through. Knight takes knight. That is not only removing a defender of the g-pawn, but it's also adding an attacker. And we see resignation there. So Nicolosi closes that one out. Amiwal gets swept, unfortunately, for Mizzou. And the question now is, will Isak be joining his teammate? Or can he get on the board? Technically, computer likes Isak, but we've seen how he's handled the time pressure earlier in this matchup, and it's not good. Aryan Chopra, a good move here. Technically up a pawn. Oh, and now the eval shoots back up for Chopra. So this was a tough spot. So yeah, it did not like queen d6. Or what did it like? Maybe it was this. This was the move that was a problem. So what was this move all about even? Because that looks like a free pawn. Man. So Isak, he's trying to stir up some trouble here. Takes. Black can get a queen back, but not really. Well, hold on. Technically, they can, I guess. But do they want to? Queen takes g3 is the move. Whoa, not played. A sacrifice. Knight takes tactic on the knight. So, bishop takes with check, but there'd be a rook sacrifice. So we see rook takes first. And now Isak down to 10 seconds. You don't want to take with the rook because your knight's gonna fall. Queen takes now. Rook trade. Whoa, rook and threatening checkmate. Hold up, folks. Queen here would allow rook takes. So we see queen f1 defending the mate, but losing the queen to the rook. Queen mate is a threat here, by the way. Oops, missed that one. Isak on the board, saying, I'm not getting swept today. So nice queen takes and rook coming in, threatening mate. That was a strong one there. So Isak taking down Aryan Chopra in time pressure as well. Here we have a bishop versus a knight, and white is technically up a single pawn. It's a 2-on-1 on the queen side. So Luca is going to have to defend here. We see the rook coming to the second rank, very strong play. Threat was to take the knight and then take the b pawn, but the knight hops in with check. We could just probably take that easy peasy, right? Maybe not. Maybe it's not so easy peasy. What am I thinking? I don't know. Oh, we take here. Well, okay. I figured this looked simple enough too. Can we just go here? Can we give a check? Wow, there's only two moves that are winning. It's these two moves. These were the most natural moves. Check, and now there's only one winning move, and it's this one. So that worked out. Now the king lifts and defends the e-pawn. Next, we're going to push that g-pawn. The g-pawn wants to come in and play. So, king f2 again, but then check again. And what, we got to wiggle our way around this way? Is that what you're telling me? Less than 10 seconds for Barat. Ooh, and that, my friends, is how you lose the advantage. But the game's not over yet. Still an extra pawn for white, but computer saying that black can now hold this. So the question becomes, Can black hold this? Both sides very low on time, but Luca's fighting. Pawn is defended. Rook is defended. B6. I liked rook f8. Very interesting. They might shuffle their way to a draw. Slew B about to win Division 3. That's exciting. Okay, a rook check allowed for the king to step up, but now the black pawn's trying to push. This pawn is defended tactically by a skewer. So the rook gets behind the pawn now, and rook gets behind this pawn. The king is here. This pawn gets traded off, and now this is a win for white. So this king is cut off. And yeah, we've already seen this position earlier today, and this king is going to walk that pawn home. And I think you can build a bridge, so to speak. So we see resignation. So yeah, tough day in the office for Luca, and 3 out of 4 for Barat. Very good result. So everyone on the Slew team got at least 2.5 points, which is pretty darn good. So final match score, 11.5 to 4.5. St. Louis with a dominant victory against the Missouri Tigers. But that being said, this is still just the regular season. It is the last day of the regular season, and this will determine the playoff standings. Let me see if anyone wants to do an interview. Doesn't seem like it. But yeah, if not, we can send you guys off on the raid. And the CCL channel will be back live in about 2 hours from now. So don't go anywhere. If you want to watch some more College Blitz, there's going to be the U.S. College Blitz Championship. So force Victor for the Victor already left is the problem. So yeah, that being said, all these players, they really want their rest. They got a little bit of a break before the U.S. College Blitz. Okay, we'll have an interview with Nicolosi. So if you guys have any questions for Nicolosi, you can share them in the chat. Let me pull them in. So I'll take a quick break for now while we set up for Nicolosi. So give us a brief second here, and we'll be right back. Hello and welcome back. We have the board four from St. Louis University, Nicolosi Kacharava, who just beat their rivals Mizzou by an impressive 11.5 to 4.5 and went 2.5 out of 4. Nicolosi, how are you feeling today?
Hello, Joe. Hello, everybody. Yes, this one was very nice and very important. Um, Several days ago, our captains too told us that we had to win this match to get first place. So I started practicing. I played several hours each day to prepare, and I am glad that it paid off in the end.
Were you preparing for Ariantari to be playing, or did you know he wouldn't be available today?
Well, I knew he was playing Reykjavik Open, I think. So I knew he was not playing, but I usually don't prepare specifically against opponents. I was just practicing online blitz to have like this feeling, this quick, to be quick.
Now I know your captain Steve has played a lot of the matches so far this season. At what point throughout the week do you know who's going to be in and who's going to be out?
About this match, I think we knew like 4 or 5 days ago. Yeah, all of us are very strong players, and usually like we rest one by one, so that none of us, like every one of us, play because we deserve it. We can play well, but yeah, usually after the match. So this match was rescheduled. So like yeah, 1 week ago, I already knew.
Okay, and you mentioned that this is a really important match to clinch a top spot in the standings. So you should have a bye next week once we finalize the standings. But what do you normally do when you have that extra week off to rest?
Oh. I don't know. I just use it to rest. Or, for example, in 1 week, next Saturday, I go for European Individual Championship. So I will be preparing for that.
Oh wow, that's very exciting.
Yeah, yeah, in Poland, Katowice.
Very nice. Best of luck to you and that, and I'm glad that you
Thank you.
can maybe have some extra time for that. But you
Yes.
guys also played against Mizzou recently over the board at the President's Cup. How much of your prep work do you look at the over the board games, or do you look at the other Collegiate Chess League matches from their season?
Oh, so collegiate league, like this online chess championship is totally different from over the board. I don't ever prepare against openings. It just doesn't make sense. Everything will be decided later. And over the board, yeah, of course, I have been preparing like for 10 days ago, every day, several hours of training with my coaches because, okay, classic I think is more important. So, yeah.
And I think a lot of people looking at that President's Cup event probably thought Webster was potentially the favorite, especially with Wonder Liang. People were mentioning in the chat as well. So, how did President's Cup go for you personally? And do you think that some of the results were unexpected, or do you think it was still fairly reasonable?
Well, of course, Webster was the favorite. They have like Liang, who is 2700, very strong player, and on below board they also have very strong 2560 players. But I would not say that it is very unexpected because it's only 3 rounds. Like it finishes in 2 days, so other teams are also very strong. Everything may happen in 3 rounds. If it was like 9 round tournament, it would be more unexpected if Webster didn't perform well. But in 3 rounds, everything may happen. So for me, yeah, like first round was fine. I played against Ishik and against Quesada. Both are very strong players, so draw was fine. Moreover, our third board, Viktor Gajic, was performing really well, so I didn't really need to step up. But in the last game, yeah, we needed to win with a big margin, like 3.5 or 4. So I overpushed my opponent when the position didn't give me possibilities. It was like I should probably, it was probably equal, and I sacrificed a piece and then I pushed, and because of that I lost. But yeah, that happens, and it was a good experience.
So you played against Ishik again today, but this time in the first round, and you also sacrificed a piece, your knight, for two pawns.
Yeah.
Walk us through that moment. Were you feeling that his clock played a big factor in that decision?
So No, I just like the position was telling me that I should have sacrificed something, and there were so many ways to sacrifice that I got confused by it. And one of the sacrifices was working. After Queen h5, Knight h6, there was Knight c6, and there was this line: f takes c6, Queen g6, Knight e2 check, King g2, Rook c1. And there I was looking at Queen e6, King h8, Queen g6. And there is Queen b1, very good move, and it protects mate on h7. But I didn't continue to calculate. I can take Rook c1 first, Knight c1, and in that variation, Queen b1 is not there, and we repeat the moves with King g8, Queen e6. So that would work. And then, yeah, of course, his time helped me a lot because he just blundered the queen. Like, I
Yeah.
was totally losing if he didn't blunder. I got lucky.
Yeah, that was a very fun game. So we'll have to go back and maybe make a highlight of that. But yeah, Nicolosi, I feel like we catch you on these interviews a lot now. So I really appreciate you offering your time. And I know, are you competing in the U.S. College Blitz Championship later today?
Yes, yes, I will be there with all of my team members.
Very awesome. Well, we'll be streaming that on the CCL Twitch channel with another commentator later today, but I will let you get your rest for that. Best of luck, and congratulations again on the massive win today, and good luck in the playoffs.
Thank you very much. See you soon.
Yeah. Take care. All right, that was Nicolosi Kacharava, the board 4 grandmaster from St. Louis University, after their win against their in-state rivals, University of Missouri. But as you heard from him, he will be competing again later today with the U.S. College Blitz Championship. So I hope to see you guys back. That's going to be in about 2 hours from now, commentated by Uni Kim. So that'll be a lot of fun. But that's it for me today. I will be back tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern with the U.S. Rapid Championship for colleges. So hope to see you all then. And yeah, thanks again, everyone, for watching. So we're going to send you all off on a raid. So stick around for that and hope to see you back in about 2 hours for the U.S. College Blitz Championship. Take care, everyone. Have a good rest of your week.